everyone. I hope you're doing a lot better since I got to speak with you 3 weeks ago. And I know 3 weeks ago I kind of talked about how we had to find peace and the good things in this time of chaos. And while that is still important and true, I think it was more important for the initial stages of the pandemic where we really didn't know what was going to happen. And now we find ourselves about a month in and we've become very accustomed to what's happening. We've adjusted to this quarantine thing. We're like, all right, this is my life. I've got like 4 weeks under my belt. This is what it is, and I feel like that's we're all in this. We're in a very low point. I mean, regardless of where you are in your faith or where you are in your life, this is a low for everyone. Nobody wants to be here, and it's a tough spot, and it only puts stress on us. And when I think about being in a low point, I think you kind of fall into one or two categories. The first one, where you feel depression or despair, where you kind of have this loss of hope and you feel beaten down and you feel like it's too much. And the other one, if you're a little bit more happy go lucky, you're saying, okay, I can do this. I got God on my side. This is no problem. I just got to get through this bad time. And why I don't think either scenario is that great because I think it's hard to find this like true, genuine joy in either one of those scenarios. Obviously, if you have this loss of hope, then you have no good feelings. And if you're in that more of a happy-go-lucky where you got this, you still do you really have that genuine joy? Like this is what you're doing to pursue through it, but do you really have that genuine joy? And I think that's something that it's hard for us to find. And when I think about that and trying to find this peace, I turn to Philippians. It's a pretty common verse. It's a little cliche. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. What I think is really important is if you look at the two verses before that, and in verses 11 and 12, it says, "Not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I've learned in whatever situation I'm to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. And in any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance, and need." And I think that's really important because do we really feel content? And content is this feeling of just peace and calmness. And I think that's what both of those scenarios kind of lack. And we right here where we need true wisdom is to kind of have that feeling, be able to be content in any circumstance. And this is one of those ones that's going to be extremely tough. It's one of the lows. It's one of those times of hunger. And the more I kind of think about this, it reminds me of a book I read, and the book is The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a set of about 30 letters written through the mind of a senior demon to his younger nephew, a new demon. And basically throughout the book, the nephew is writing to him. We don't get to read that, but he's talking about these people he's in charge of, and he's trying to turn them away from Christ. And his uncle, Screwtape, is giving him advice on how to do that. And in one chapter, he has a person who's kind of hit a low, very similar to the circumstances we're in now. And he kind of says, all right, there's some things we do, but the big one is if they're a person that's a little bit despaired, you want to isolate them from everybody. Don't give them the chance to find anything good. Don't let them go, and especially if they're involved in the church community, you don't keep them away from that circumstance. And the other one is, it's the other scenario, if they're a little bit more happy-go-lucky, you want them to think that this isn't that bad. Because they have that mindset where this is fine, I can do this. He tells him to kind of keep him from thinking about what's actually happening. Keep him from talking about what's going on to a point where he might consider this to be a bad point. And to be like a true low. And to get that feeling. And when I think about that, it's this aspect of community. So he's telling him to turn away. He's telling him to keep him from everyone he knows. Don't let him meet up with his church group. And I think that's something that we kind of have a difficulty with. And I found this verse in Hebrews, and it's chapter 10 and verses 24 and 25. "And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together as the habit of some, but encouraging one another." I think that's truly important because in this time we can't see each other. So I feel like we're neglecting that fellowship and that community aspect of our faith. Where normally we'd be going to church and we'd have our small groups and we'd be able to talk about, hey, I got this thing going on. Can you pray for me? Or you just kind of find you can be able to talk about it to work through these tough spots. And I don't think we're really given that chance now. And I think that's truly important. And what I'm getting at is I think we need to find a way to do that even in this time. It may be a little untraditional, but we live in a great age where we have technology, where we're able to call people, we're able to FaceTime and just talk to some people. I mean, I highly encourage everyone to get involved in some kind of small group. Come to the Young Adult one if you have some time, but just to be able to find someone where you can talk about what's going on. Because we're falling prey to what the devil wants if we're not doing that. He wants us to kind of stay away, not talk about it. Don't find hope in other people, and don't bring up the bad stuff. He wants that middle ground where we think we're fine, but in reality we kind of have to meet with each other and talk through some of these things. And in Matthew chapter 18:20 it says, "Where two or more meet in my name, I am there with them." Man, that's amazing. We have to find those times where we can meet up, where we can make a call, or we just join a FaceTime and really just talk through these things. And maybe you're stuck at home with some other people. You might not be accustomed to talking to them about the struggles you have or the issues of their faith, but I highly encourage that. Use what you have available. Get that aspect of community that we're really lacking. And I just want to thank you guys for joining in, and thank you.